It's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Tsh. Da 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 da. Di da di di da di di da 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 da. Di da di li da di li di da. Di da di li di da di li 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 da di da di da di di da.
Introducing the Centrarchids. Members of the Centrarchids are the most popular game fish and are usually the first fish caught by many. Centrarchids or sunfish are distinguished by having a laterally compressed body shape, 3 to 8 anal spines and 2 dorsal fins, a spinous first dorsal and raised second dorsal that are fused. Size varies greatly within the family from 3 inches to 3 feet. Many species within Centrarchidae can be separated into 2 main groups based on the 2 most common genera, Micropterus and Lepomis. Species in the genre Lepomis are defined by a deep or more round-shaped body, smaller mouths, and obtaining food through suction feeding. Species in the genus Micropterus are defined by a more streamlined body, larger mouth, and consuming prey primarily by ram feeding methods. The native range of sunfish is only in the US, Canada, and Mexico, but since they are a very popular game fish, have been introduced into Europe, South America, Africa, and Asia. These fish prefer clear and warm, slow-moving water and are commonly found in habitats such as lakes, ponds, medium to low-flow streams, rivers, and swamps. In their invasive range, they can wreak havoc on native fish and other aquatic animals in that ecosystem. Sunfish generally spawn in spring and juveniles emerge in the late spring to early summer. All members except for the genus Micropterus change colors during the breeding season, but more coloration is seen in males. The process of courtship and reproduction is nearly identical in most species, which results in high-level hybridization. To initiate reproduction, males dig a deep circular depression in the substrate with their tail fin to create a nest, which they will aggressively defend against other males and intruders. Males and females then undergo a courtship dancing ritual before the female deposits her eggs in the nest. Multiple females may deposit their eggs in one nest. Male parental care includes nest building, nest guarding, guarding of the eggs and fry, and nest fanning, which aerates the eggs. So there ain't no deadbeat daddies here. Main features you're going to be looking at to determine these fishes apart are going to be the mouth, the operculum, fins, body shape, and coloration. First 3 we have the red ear, pumpkin seed, and bluegill. The red ear and pumpkin seed, you can tell by their operculum, which is that black and red on this gill plate, that you can tell them apart from the bluegill. But from the pumpkin seed and red ear, you see the pumpkin seed has much more orange on it, on the underbelly, on the tail, and all the other fins, while the red ear is more of like a greenish, dark green, brown type coloration. The bluegill has an orange underbelly, and the operculum has no red on it, and it's mainly green. Also, you want to look at their mouths. All 3 of these mouths are quite small. They do not go past or even really meet the eyes. Maybe a little bit. They may meet the eyes a little bit. And also the pumpkin seed also has stripes on its face. So that's another defining feature to be able to tell apart from the red ear and bluegill. Now we have the green sunfish, orange spotted sunfish, and the long-eared sunfish. And the green sunfish and orange spotted sunfish, their bodies are longer than they are round, unlike the other sunfish we just saw. And unlike the long-eared sunfish, even though its body is pretty long as well. And also, the green sunfish, its mouth is much bigger than the long ear and the 3 previous sunfish we looked at. And the orange spotted sunfish has a pretty big mouth too. You look at their eyes as well, how they're different colors. And you look at these 3 operculum, how it's black and has white on the outside. And the long-eared sunfish operculum is quite long. If you look at the head shapes, they're all different. The orange-spotted sunfish looks kind of like a perch's head. And you see the long-eared sunfish, its head has a short head, and the lips only come to about half to their eyes. Coloration, green sunfish and long ear have like a stripe pattern kind of going on. As you see them in the wild, their coloration is going to be slightly different, so that's why there's some defining features that you can see that'll help you be able to identify them in the wild, because a lot of hybridization goes on out in the wild. Orange spotted sunfish has orange spots and an orange underbelly as well. And you just mainly have to remember with these three is the head shapes, how different they are from each other, and their overall patterns on their bodies are quite different as well. Next we have the red-breasted sunfish, warmouth, and rock bass. Red-breasted sunfish is going to have a red underbelly, and the operculum on the red-breasted is really long as well, and it's just black. Has a small mouth, and the upper body is going to be like a greenish brown. Warmouth and rock bass are going to have bigger mouths, and they are in a different genus. They're not in Lipomus. In the rock bass and warmouth, you just have to remember the pattern and the anal fin spines. The warmouth has 3, and the rock bass looks like 6 anal fin spines. So that's the main difference you gotta remember if you want to tell apart the rock bass and warmouth. It's gonna be the anal fin spines to front them out, and just remember the coloration, because these pictures aren't going to be exactly perfect. Then we have the white crappie and the black crappie. The white crappie is going to be generally a lighter color and have these broken bands across the body. That's going to be the pattern they usually have. The black crappie is generally going to be darker. Some of them are really black, some of them are less black, but they're not going to have those bands on them. They're not going to have as much yellow pigment as the white crappie, and they're going to have speckles. Some of them will have like much more denser speckles, and some of them are not as dense. Now the largemouth bass and the smallmouth bass. The largemouth bass lips are going to extend past the eyes, while the smallmouth bass's lips will not. Also, the smallmouth bass has these long bands, broken bands on his body. And if you look at the dorsal fins, the largemouth bass dorsal fins have more of a dip in the middle that define the two dorsal fins more than the smallmouth bass. And if you look at the tails, smallmouth bass's tail fin is more forked than the largemouth bass. And on the largemouth bass, the lighting of the underbelly extends higher up the body than a smallmouth bass, while as you see the light color on his belly is much more on the belly than on the sides. Now we have the shoal bass and the red-eye bass. The red-eye bass has stripes, and sometimes its fins have red markings on the tips, and the belly has plenty of white on it on the bottom and on the sides, and the mouth does not pass the eyes. The shoal bass is going to be green and yellowish. The mouth is going to align with the end of the eyes, and if you look at the anal fin, the first 2 spines are quite small, and then the rest of the fin shoots out pretty far. Both of the fish's tail fins are also not deeply forked, and the red-eye bass is going to be more of a darker greenish yellowish, with the underbelly and the sides also white. The lower half of its side pretty white. Now the spotted bass is going to be greener and have spots on the back, while on the underbelly is going to be white. It looks kind of like the largemouth bass, but if you look at the mouth, it does not go past the eyes. Just remember the ranges of each fish that you're in, which is going to be kind of hard because they are invasive, so they're going to be all over the place, all over the US. And also remember, hybridization does occur in the wild, so you might have animals with features of both its parents of two different species. But for the most part, these are what the fish are going to look like, and as I catch them and dissect them, we're going to get a much better understanding of each species. This video was just a quick overview of the most popular ones, because there are still more in the Centrarchidae family, but so far this is what I showed you. We're going to be catching them, cooking them. It tastes pretty good, so stay tuned.